Greetings, citizens, and thanks for joining us for episode 62 of the Nindie Nation podcast. I'm Jeff, and if this is your first time here, thanks for stopping by. Nindie Nation is your weekly source for everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch and a part of the Nintendo Village. Each week, we take a look at every new indie game releasing on the Switch, and in our second half, we find the best indie deals available to keep your Joy-Cons synced. Each episode of Nindie Nation hits the podcast feeds on Sunday evening, and if you listen better with your eyes, a video version with game footage posts to our YouTube channel on Monday. In the meantime, keep up with us on Twitter at Nindie Nation for up-to-the-minute deals and general Nindie shenanigans. We're brought to you by our friends at the Nintendo Village, who are busy plugging away to make daily news articles and features, weekly shows on YouTube, and a slew of great podcasts, and you can find all of it at thenintendovillage.com. This week, we're covering new releases from April 25th through May 1st and have 19 new Nindies to check out, and then we'll get into the deals you can find on the eShop. Before that, though, we always kick things off with the games that shadow dropped since last week, so as usual, let's get this party started with the 8 indies that released since episode 61. The first game to cover from last week is totally my bad. I had ITTA by Glass Revolver and Armor Games in the rundown and somehow just skipped right over it. ITTA is a twin-stick dungeon-crawling roguelike about a girl and her dad's magical revolver. It plays out like many other games before it, but ITTA leans much more heavily into the boss rush format. Definitely one worth checking out, and ITTA launched last week for $13.49. Where Angels Cry is the next first-person point-and-click adventure by ITTA Games, who's been releasing a lot of these recently. The story revolves around a mysterious, formerly sacred monastery that has been overwhelmed by strange happenings. You play as a monk sent to investigate by the Vatican, and while the story sounds at least interesting, the gameplay reminds me far too much of Return to Zork, which was the first PC game I ever played way back in 1993, so I'm not too sure about recommending this $10 adventure just yet. And how could the marketing machine at Winterworks forget to let the world know about their incredible $7 release last week? Animal Fun for Toddlers and Kids is a bunch of barely animated screens that you tap on to hear animal sounds. I know this because my 2-year-old plays basically this same game on my old iPad mini, which now has a mostly broken screen and is permanently covered in a layer of what appears to be a mixture of peanut butter and snot. If your kids must play this game, please don't let them do it on your Switch. And Microids, who has been known to release decently solid racing and extreme sports games, coincidentally dropped Off-Road Racing Buggy Cross ATV Cross Moto last week without warning. It's $20, but seems to have racing in all styles mentioned by the admittedly straightforward title. The next one we missed last week is one that actually looks pretty cool. The Copper Canyon Dixie Dash basically takes the fast-paced multiple ammo type approach of the brand new Doom Eternal and puts it in a much more PG-rated game about taking down rogue robots inside of a Wild West amusement park. It's only $7.50, and depending on how it actually plays, Black Dragon Studios could have a neat little FPS on their hands. And last week's Ratalaika adventure game is in the form of a classic LucasArts adventure called Guard Duty, and I cannot stop laughing at the title art for this game. You gotta see it. The story's interesting though, featuring a fully voiced cast and 2 parallel stories that take place 1,000 years apart. In one, you're a royal guard who must save a princess, and in the other, you are one of the last protectors of humanity who is currently on their last legs. Check this one out while it's on sale for only $7.99. Looks pretty neat. Debtor is the next budget indie by Dragius Games, and it's just about the simplest 2D platformer you could imagine. I've yet to try this one out, but I have it, and I'll let you know my thoughts on Twitter at Nindie Nation if you're considering this $3 retro platformer. And the last neglected Nindie for the week is another entry by Dragius Games in a genre that has seen an oddly significant amount of releases recently. Archeka, The Path of Light is another top-down puzzle game where you move things around the level in order to bounce light into the right target. I have no idea why there have been at least 2 of these every single week, but if you're looking for another one, Archeka has nicely polished visuals and released last week on April 23rd for $14.99. Not a bad way to kick off the episode, if I do say so myself. Also, totally my bad on missing ITTA last week. I just glossed right over it when I was recording the podcast, and it was in the running for my pick of the week last week too. I didn't even realize it until editing. A couple of the other games aren't looking too bad from the list either, but let me know what you think over on Twitter at Nindie Nation. Otherwise, enough looking backwards because we've got a lot to discuss in this coming week. So let's check out the new Nindies hitting the eShop April 25th through May 1st. And boy, do we have some exciting titles this week. First up on April 28th is the next release by the creator of Her Story, the critically acclaimed narrative mystery told through live-action video. Telling Lies is published by Annapurna, who's been knocking it out of the park recently with games like What Remains of Edith Finch and Donut County. In Telling Lies, the player finds a laptop filled with secret NSA video testimonies, and it's up to you to put together the story of the intertwining lives of the 4 main characters. This interactive mystery thriller also has a surprisingly impressive cast, and I just might have to pick this one up for that reason alone. If you're in the same boat, you can too for $19.99. Another exciting, long-awaited indie hits the eShop on April 28th with Moving Out from SMG Studio and Team 17. Moving Out is the next big couch co-op game for fans of Overcooked and will have you and your friends working for a hilariously inept moving company. Instead of cooking recipes, you'll do your best to move boxes and furnitures through increasingly ridiculous scenarios, and you can move this game onto your Switch for $25. And we're on a roll because this next release on the 28th is another Nindie worth recommending, and it's in a completely different genre. Starcrossed, developed by Contigo Games, is essentially a twin-stick shooter where you fly around as one of 5 anime pop stars, and you've got a wide assortment of weapons and abilities that can be upgraded or customized. Starcrossed also features co-op and a ranking system that should provide additional replay value, and it launches for only $9.99. Zen Studios takes a break from pinball this week to launch the 4th excellent-looking Nindie in a row with Dread Nautical for $19.99. Dread Nautical takes the premise of a crew stuck on a haunted ship and plays out mostly like a grid-based tactical RPG. There's a lot more active movement, though, and multiple other aspects like branching narratives based on your choices, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. Sorry, it doesn't seem to be procedurally generated. I'd love to cheer as well. I've actually never heard of Dread Nautical, but if this list wasn't already so crowded by excellent other options, and one big one coming up soon, I might have to pick Dread Nautical as my pick of the week. Thankfully, Sometimes You is here to save me from having to recommend 5 brand new Nindies in a row, but that's not to say their release this week is lacking. Active Neurons is yet another chill puzzle game, this time for $3.99, that claims to be built around a computerized version of how the brain works. Apparently, it trains the player in, quote, spatial logical thinking, which is cool, but even then, I've seen so many similar titles recently. All I see are a bunch of colorful squares that slide around, and this one, I guess, at least looks prettier than most. Jumping ahead, we're already at the big weekly Thursday drop on April 30th, but don't think we're even close to finished yet, citizens, because there are some serious bangers dropping soon. And it all starts with Mushroom Wars, which is not what I would call a banger, so to speak. Seeing Dolores Entertainment as the publisher, I am instantly prepared for mediocrity, as that is all I've ever seen from this publisher. And they did not disappoint, as Mushroom Wars is a $4 retro puzzle platformer where you swap between 3 different little mushroom dudes and do just about everything you'd expect from a run-of-the-mill 2D puzzle platformer. Womp womp. Next up is Ministry of Broadcast, which is coincidentally developed by Ministry of Broadcast Studios, and I like what I'm seeing here. Set in a world reminiscent of the Cold War era, you are an innocent prisoner whose only option to ever see your family again is to compete and win a reality TV show broadcast by the communist regime. It's a cinematic platformer, which puts it in the retro category of games like Out of This World or Blackthorn, and in more modern entries like Inside or Limbo. The premise is right out of 1984 or Black Mirror, and Ministry of Broadcast certainly seems like an adventure worth taking for $14 $14.99. Also on the 30th is a game nobody wants by Digital Leisure called The Four Kings Casino and Slots. You can probably fill in the rest, but just in case, you make a character and then you walk around a casino, apparently in an MMO structure, and you just play casino games. It's free to play and it looks like garbage. And from the publisher I'm consistently curious about, but have yet to find a game I'm interested enough in trying, CFK delivers Fairy Nights for $7.99, and this could actually be the one that I pick up. It's a puzzle RPG, so think Puzzle Quest or the more recent Round Guard, where you play through a traditional JRPG-style story, but battles take place as the sort of puzzle where you have to rotate and connect a bunch of pipe tiles in order to have liquid or a current connect from one side or the other. You know, it's like a mini game in almost every Ubisoft game. Will this be my first CFK game? Maybe, but with the incredible lineup we've got this week, I'm gonna say probably not. Winning the award for studio with the best name of the week, Butterscotch Shenanigans drops Levelhead for $20 and tasks you with making 2D platformer levels a la Mario Maker, but with a decidedly more indie look and feel. I'm trying to look for more to say about it because Levelhead actually looks pretty cool, but from what I can tell, there's not much more to say other than indie Mario Maker. But there's nothing wrong with that. Sabec is a publishing group that's seen an insurgence on the Switch as of late, but they seem to be porting a bunch of overpriced mobile games, and I fear they are becoming another Ultimate Games. While I will continue to hope that they can deliver a diamond in the rough, that certainly isn't the case for this week's release of Bubble, which is little more than a $10 clone of Bust-A-Move with poorly animated woodland creatures. And speaking of publishers who just keep popping up, the hilariously named Playstige Interactive is back this week with War-Torn Dreams, a side-scrolling run-and-gun set in a dreary post-apocalyptic America. Their 2.5D approach reminds me a lot of Shadow Complex, but with much lower quality. You run, you jump over obstacles, occasionally run into survivors, and shoot pretty much anything that's trying to stop you. I might consider this game for $1, but it seems hard to justify at its launch price of $7.99. And the big one for this week. If you've been following me on Twitter, which you should at Nindie Nation, you know I cannot wait to get my hands on Streets of Rage 4. I've been on a beat-em-up kick recently, playing the Capcom beat-em-up bundle, Streets of Rage 2, 3, and even a little Golden Axe in preparation. Currently, River City Girls is my pick for the best beat-em-up on the Switch, and that's going to be a tough one to dethrone. But everything I've seen from Streets of Rage 4 shows that the teams at Dotemu, Lizard Cube, and Guard Crush Games are up for the challenge. It's $25, and I've already ordered my physical copy, which is even more. And I'm really hoping that the new mechanics they list in the trailers are enough to justify the hefty price tag. I was thrilled to see that they included not only the original pixel art characters, but they even let you listen to the incredible soundtrack from the previous titles, and I cannot wait to report back next week after I've spent some time with Streets of Rage 4, the Nindie Nation pick of the week. Bucking the trend for visual novels featuring underage anime schoolgirls, D3 Publishing is dropping a whole lot of WTF this week with My Secret Pets for $14.99. And I'm just gonna shut up, read their description, and let you decide if this is the game for you. Your beloved pets have transformed into hot guys, an exciting story of cohabitating with some thrilling animal men. This is a romance game for women where you live with your pets who have suddenly transformed into attractive men. You'll spend 7 days with your pets who love you devotedly. Are they your pets or are you becoming the pet? Your exciting reverse harem cohabitation with these animal men is about to begin. And moving on, Kairosoft took last week off, but they're back this week with Pocket Arcade Story, shoehorning their mobile game Time Waster from 2010 into a $14 Switch game themed around owning an arcade. And say it with me, citizens, don't buy Kairosoft games. Wrapping up the week on Friday, May 1st is a quartet of completely different games, and it all kicks off with Arcade Spirits for $17.99 by P-Cube. In this visual novel rom-com, you can create whatever character you like and navigate the 1983 world of arcades, meeting all of the interesting characters and making multiple decisions that pan out to give almost every player a unique story. Arcade Spirits isn't my cup of tea, but the quality looks like it's all there, and this is a much better approach for representing the arcades. than that last game. Fallen Tree Games is yet another developer who has started to release chill, relaxing puzzle games almost every week, and this week, they treat us to Swapperoo for $4.95. Swapperoo, besides being fun to say, is presented well with a high level of polish and has something to do with trapping arrows, but I seriously can't provide unique explanations for every single one of these games when we get 3 of them every single week. I just can't. Gun Crazy is the game I discovered I need to check out while working on this week's episode, which is fitting because Radaleka has a code for it sitting in the Nindie Nation inbox right now. Gun Crazy is a short arcade-style action game that looks like it was ported from the Genesis in all of the best ways. I'm worried that having only 4 levels means the game is over way too quickly, but it remains to be seen if there's more than meets the eye in this $5 run-and-gun. Check back in next week or look me up on Twitter to see my impressions after I get some time with it. And finally, Sonka releases their long-running PC simulation game 911 Operator Deluxe Edition, which apparently includes a boatload of later-released DLC for $21.99. The game has surprisingly high reviews for what looks like a pretty detail-oriented simulation. You're basically taking calls, looking at a map, and routing the most capable team to the scene of the emergency. Another one that's probably not up my alley, but it seems like there's a decent-sized audience for 911 Operator if you want to try your hand at, virtually dispatching emergency services? We really do get a little bit of everything in the world of indie games, don't we? But we didn't get a skanky anime visual novel this week, though, and I'm fine with that. Oh, and we didn't have a Nindie trifecta. We almost did, though. Might be a first for the lack of that double feature, but I know I've got at least 5 games on my list to check out. Obviously, Streets of Rage 4, and then there's Starcrossed, Dreadnautical, and even last week's ITTA all look great. And if you're stuck inside with fellow gamers, don't miss Moving Out. Actually, even if you're stuck inside with non-gamers, Moving Out is the kind of game that could be even more fun with someone who has no idea how to operate a modern controller. But hey, maybe you're looking for something different. Maybe you're a man or woman of specific taste, and maybe you're a cheapskate. If so, we've got you covered because it's time to dive into the best deals of the week on the eShop where there are currently 499 titles discounted. Here is Nindie Nation's list of the best eShop deals for April 25th through May 1st. First of all, stop what you're doing, go to the eShop, and buy Ding Dong XL for 9 cents. It's addictive, it's fun, it's kind of like Pong, and everyone should have it while it's 95% off. We've got a Let's Play on the Nindie Nation YouTube channel if you want to see more, but just buy it. And while you're at that, pick up Super Bit Blaster XL for 99 cents, also created by Adam Nickerson. This is his take on asteroids, and it is worth every one of those 99 pennies, especially when it's usually 4 times the price. Next up, we have a couple of collections for you. The Bleed 1 and 2 Complete Bundle is 85% off for only $4.19, and I love these action run-and-gun games so much, they are featured in this week's upcoming Nindies We Love video, so stay on the lookout for that. Oniken and Odalis are in a bundle for 75% off, and $5 is a great price for 2 very well-made throwbacks to Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania. Each game stands alone and will give you a good deal of fun and challenge if you like the retro originals. Also, the Steamworld Collection is on sale for 50 to 60% off, so if you don't have Steamworld Dig 2, pick up one of the best Nindies available for 65% off, and if you're itching for a JRPG or anything card-related, Steamworld Quest delivers with a boatload of charm half off for $12.49. And speaking of the upcoming Nindies We Love video, another entry is currently half off, and that is Skyrogue, the arcadey air combat game that looks like it's developed by the Sega team behind the Virtua series. It's a total blast, and we don't get enough of these games, so pick it up for $10 this week. And check out the Nindies We Love video coming out this week as well. If you're looking for a couch co-op fix, don't miss Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime when it's half off for only $7.49. It is truly the epitome of what a cooperative game is, and the more you play it, the more you'll love it. I would be remiss if I didn't mention quite possibly the best indie there is. Celeste is at its lowest price ever for only $5, and it includes the newly released 9th chapter. This game is beautiful and the closest I think I've ever seen to a perfect video game. If you don't have it, pick it up this week while Celeste is 75% off. In the category of throwback 2D action adventures, we've got a couple for you this week. Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan is 30% off for $6.99 and will deliver over 20 hours of finely tuned Super Nintendo-style action adventure. And if you were more of a Sega Genesis kid, Polyroll is 80% off for $1.99 and will take you right back to games like Ristar. Man, I love that game. If you want to check out something new, Underhero, the side-scrolling action RPG, is already 33% off for $11.38 and will be right up the alley of anyone who wants some colorful pixel art to hack and slash their way through. Black Paradox, another Nindie with a Let's Play on our YouTube channel, is 66% off for only $5 and is some of the most fun I've had with a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up in a while. The music is great, I love the upgrade loop, and the game just plays like a dream. Shmup fans should not miss Black Paradox. And finally, Die for Valhalla is an extremely bloody brawler that's a great playthrough solo or with some friends, and it's currently 80% off for $2.39. What are you picking up this week? Something old, something new, something that starts with S and ends with Treats of Rage 4? Let me know over on Twitter at Nindie Nation. As you heard me reference, there is a ton of content over on the Nindie Nation YouTube channel, so go check out some Let's Plays, a video version of each podcast episode, or the Nindies We Love series, which is getting a brand new entry this week. If you like what you see there, please give us a thumbs up or a subscription, as it goes a long way to helping other fans of Nindies see what Nindie Nation is all about. And for everything else Nintendo related, go check out our friends at the Nintendo Village. They're cranking out daily news and feature articles, videos, and a bunch of fantastic weekly podcasts. You can find it all at thenintendovillage.com, and as always, we thank them for helping make Nindie Nation possible. As I'm wrapping up the notes for each week's podcast, I find myself guessing how long each episode will be, and this week has a bunch of Nindies worth checking out, so I'm guessing we're going to be on the longer side this week. So if you made it to the end, thank you. And thank you for watching, listening, liking, subscribing, or sharing Nindie Nation with others. We've talked about what we missed last week, we've looked at the stellar week ahead, and we've parsed through the 499 discounts on the eShop, so that means we're at the end of episode 62. We've got a new YouTube video coming this week, and you're sure to see the Nindie Nation Twitter account buzzing with the excitement of this week's new releases. And of course, we'll be back next week for episode 63. Until then, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 62, and whether you're brawling, puzzling, investigating, or just trying to move some boxes, we'll be right here to help you find just the Nindie to keep your Joy-Cons synced.